Hey there, if you have ever made a presentation or pitched your offer, presented the opportunity for somebody to work with you, and at the end of that, what you hear is, can I think about it? Or it sounds good, but I don't really have the money for it. Or can I ask my spouse and get back to you? And then they never do, or anything like that. If that's ever happened to you, then this video is for you. I'm going to be sharing with you something that we've developed around how to handle objections, but not just like to overcome them or manipulate people into saying yes, rather to help people make an empowered decision. And really, these objections are the moments when a coaching relationship can begin, or a partnership can begin. And it's in these moments that we can either build trust or we can lose the deal. And my name is Dan Harrison. I have sold and earned millions of dollars and made lots of deals. And I've also lost lots of deals. And most of the ones that we've lost have come as a result of not being able to answer our prospective clients' questions or objections well enough for them to want to move forward. And also sometimes there are just some limitations and it's not a right fit. And that's not really what this is about. Today I'm going to be sharing with you our cheat sheet. Let me bring it up right here for you. It is our Sales Aikido Objection Handling Cheat Sheet. And I'm just going to walk you through what it is in this video. And maybe before I do, what is Sales Aikido? So Aikido is actually like a karate art form, and it's essentially when you use somebody is coming at you, there is a powerful force coming at you, whether it be a punch or a kick or something. And it's about taking that, and instead of trying to resist it or stop it, it's rather like moving with it and using it in a flow. And so that's the same thing that we want to do with objections. You don't want to say, oh, you're wrong, or stop the objection. You want to like receive it fully and then transition that objection or that question that they have. And that's really all it is when people have objections at the end of when you've made an offer to work with you. It's typically just questions that need to be overcome, because what is important for somebody to move ahead in working with you is they will not say yes to you unless they feel clear, confident, and committed. And so typically what happens is the objections that come up, by the way, there's only really a handful. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Let's go here. There's only really a handful of objections that you'll probably ever hear. So let's chat about it. So if you have ever heard of the objection, can I think about it? I think we've all probably heard that. I've definitely said that before many times. Or something like, I need to talk to my spouse or partner about that. Right? And that makes sense. Okay, so those are typically objections that come up when there's a lack of clarity. The next one is when there's a lack of confidence, right? You need confidence. They need to be confident in what you're offering. They need to be confident in themselves that they could actually achieve the result that you're offering. And so when there's a lack of confidence, they'll typically say things like, can I talk to someone who has gone through your program before? Or they might say, how do I know this will work for me? Right? So if you've ever had those objections come up before when you've been sharing your program, it's usually because there's a lack of confidence, either in themselves or in you and your program or your offer. Or there is, like, they need to be committed, right? In order to help somebody get results, they need to be committed. Doesn't matter how good your program is or how good you are as a practitioner or healer. If your client doesn't commit to the protocols or the work, it's not going to work. And so typically that's where I can't afford it, or I don't think I have enough time really comes in. And when those questions come up, it's like, well, how committed are you to wanting to get the results that we're talking about here? Okay. And so these are there could be some other outliers, but I'd say like 80, 90% of the objections that you get is a result of them not being clear, confident, or committed. And it typically shows up with one of those 6. one of those 6 objections. So let's break this down. And really what there is there's a 3-step phase and for handling objections. The first thing that you got to do is be able to recreate. Actually, before we do this, hold on. We're talking about objections, but maybe just before, let me just zoom out a second, because it's like, where does this fit into the bigger picture? And I think if you think about sales, actually here, let me share this with you. So this is like our program. This is what we do when we help our clients, is we help them go from, kind of burnt out to building businesses that can do 30K a month. Now, obviously there's like a lot of steps in here, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but when we're talking about sales, like the sales element, we are talking about this way up here, right? We're talking about the very, very last step. And so you might think that it's an objection like, oh, if I could just answer this question the right way, then I'll make more sales. But actually, if you set up a system like a client acquisition system or a process that clients are coming through, where they're, engaging with your content, then they join a community, then they're receiving like emails and automations, and they're nurturing, you're chatting with them, you book an insight call, and you hop on a sales call. Like, if you do it in the right way, you'll have way less objections to begin with, right? So I just wanted to frame that, because this isn't really like a magic pill, or like just understanding like where it fits in the bigger picture. And really what we're doing is giving you some tools to be able to navigate these questions that will inevitably come up. It's very rare for somebody to be like, just hear the pitch and be like, yes, I'm in, and just hand over money. This is usually where the sales are made. And this is really the difference between, a lot of money on the table. And so and it's a skill. Okay. So when we talk about this, we're talking about really a 3-step process. 3-step process. Okay. And what's cool is if you're a coach, or you have like coaching skills as a healer and practitioner, this is going to feel so natural for you. And I really do believe that sales really is just coaching in advance. Sales is such a service, and coaching is such a service. And what we're trying to do is help people make an empowered decision, whether it's a yes or whether it's a no. You kind of detach from the outcome. The intent here is to help people make an empowered decision. And I think that's, important. So what is the 3-step process? Well, the first is you've got to be able to recreate them. People need to feel heard. They need to feel listened to. They need to feel like you understand what their objection is, validated. If they don't feel that, they don't care what you have to say. Okay, so we've got to learn how to recreate people. And then once you've recreated and validated their experience or their belief or the story that they have in their head about why they can't do it or the questions that they have, then we want to ask another question, right? We want to re-engage the conversation with another question to have them see things differently or think of something differently. And then we want to affirm the next steps, okay? So we recreate, we ask new questions, and then we affirm the next steps. Simple, right? But it is an art. So let's talk about these ones. Can I think about it? Or I need to talk to my spouse or partner. So something that you might say, again, this is like, you may turn it into your words and use your language, but it's like the idea here. So absolutely, right? Can I talk to my spouse about it? Absolutely, for sure. I would do the same thing. I think that's a great idea. I'd encourage that, actually. Do you mind if I ask you a couple quick questions before we hop off this call? And then what you're able to do is like, you're able to frame, or you're able to ask a couple questions and re-engage the conversation. Instead of it just being a roadblock, like, I need to talk to my spouse or partner about that. And you say, okay, let me know when you're done. Like, or can I think about it? You say, absolutely, I'd encourage that. Do you mind if I ask you a couple quick questions before we hop off this call? Okay, if it's, I need to talk to my spouse or partner, what you might want to do is say, it might actually be better for us to meet together to ensure that we're all on the same page, actually, right? Because if there is a spouse or partner or somebody else in the decision-making process, you definitely want to be including them in the conversation. Okay, so, and when you follow our process, like you find out that long before you get to this stage. But regardless, so absolutely, I'd encourage that. I think that that's a valid and good idea. And that's, when I say recreate, I'm not talking about full recreation mode, like with, like you might as a coaching. It's just like, they just need to feel heard, right? So absolutely, I think that's a great idea. And then you want to open it up for different questions. So what are the different questions? So here's one for like the I need to think about it. So you've said, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Okay, great. First question is like, do you think you need 2 or 3 days or like 2 or 3 months to think about this? It's kind of a cheeky question, because the reality is, like, at the end of the day, you're going to make a decision based on 2 things. And that is, am I the person that you want to work with and you want to like go down this path with? And do you think that our process will work for you? So, it could be something that we could just explore here. And so I guess these would be my questions. Do you feel like I am the person that you would want to work with? And whatever. And now you get into a new conversation. And really what objection handling is like getting to the truth of the matter, right? People might say, I want to think about it. And you start asking new questions and you realize like, oh, it's something totally different. Okay, so this is a way that you could answer new questions and get more to the truth of what the matter is. If there is a spouse, this is kind of an interesting one. Typically, if you say, yeah, I think it's a great idea, go chat with your spouse. But typically, because they don't have all the information, what happens is that our partners will often, like they don't have the information to make an informed decision if we go and try and explain everything. It never really works out that way. So I'd love to hop on another call with perhaps both of you. But in the meantime, if I was to ask you, like what typically happens is our partners will reflect back to us where we are at with this decision. So if we have doubts about the process, they will have doubts and they'll reflect that back for us. If you're really confident and excited about that, they'll tend to reflect that back with us. So if you were to imagine asking them, what do you think, like asking them about this, what do you think that they would reflect back to you? And this is such an interesting question because you get insight into like where they're at, right? And how they're feeling about your offer or your program. And then again, if they're definitely going to be part of the decision making, I would say, okay, great. Well, why don't we hop on another call and then book the call? All right. So that's the affirm. Okay, great. Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to work together? Or is there any reason why we couldn't book another call right now? Right. Affirm the next step. And then there is these. Now, what I might do, I'll just keep going with this. I'll briefly share these, and you'll be able to, beneath this video, have access to this cheat sheet. But I think you'll get the main idea. So maybe I'll just do one more. I'll do the confident one, and that'll be it for this video. But then you can take this and you have the same idea because the process is the same. It's about recreating, it's about asking new questions, and it's about affirming the new steps. And so for you might word these differently, but this is a great little cheat sheet and way to think about how to handle objections. So somebody says, can I talk to someone who has gone through your program before? And this is something I'd say. I say, great question. You certainly can. And I mean, naturally, I'm going to connect you with our best clients who will rave about us. And so more importantly, I think, is figuring out if this is the best option for you, not necessarily like our past clients. So do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions? Right? So absolutely, great question. You can certainly talk to some people who have taken our program. And naturally, I'm going to send you to the people who are best raving, our clients who will rave about us. But that's not really the question. What we really need to know is confidence. Like we're trying to get at, how do I know this will work for me? Okay, next one. How do I know this will work for me? Great question is, the short answer, I don't know yet. I don't know if this would work for you. I do know that we've helped many people like you. So let me ask you this, right? So you're just like affirming them. You're like, you're right. That's a great question. I actually don't know. I think that it could, but let me ask you a couple more questions because you're not clear. Maybe I'm not clear or confident. Sorry, rather not confident if this would work for you. So let's figure that out. That's the invitation. Okay. So then over here, some of the questions you might ask are, what exactly do you need? Do you feel that you need right now? What are you looking for specifically? Is there anything that we haven't covered or that you have questions about? Right? That's if they want to talk to other people. And then if they're not sure if it will work for you, let me ask you this. If you had the knowledge, a process, and our support to help you achieve X, how confident are you that this would work for you on a scale of 1 to 10? Great question, right? And if it's a 7 or if it's a 6, we can lean into that. Okay, well, great. Well, what's missing? What would take it from a 7 to a 10? All right. And then you can do the same thing with committed. I can't afford it. And sometimes I really can't. And you got to kind of use your discernment there. But oftentimes it's just a lack of commitment, right? They can afford going out for dinner and they can afford, other things, but are they committed to getting a result? And so this is really why objection handling is a coaching conversation, and it's the start of a coaching relationship. So you say, I totally get that. It is definitely an investment, to work with us. And we may not be the cheapest option out there for sure. And I hope that that's not you. I hope that you're selling your products and offerings for what they're worth and the value that you're truly providing, and that you're not the cheapest option out there. So you can say something like that, right? Or you could say, hey, you know what? The timing has to be right, and there's no point of investing in a program if you can't commit to it, right? Otherwise, you don't get results and nobody's happy. Could I ask you a couple questions about that? All right, so you recreate, and then you shift into asking more questions. With the money question, something that I've learned about investing in things like this is the distinction between cost and investment. I know that you're committed to reaching your goal of X. Once you achieve that, do you think that this will seem like a big investment? And this is a big question. What is the cost of not doing anything? So if you don't do anything, whether it's with me or not, but just like, what is actually the cost of not doing anything, of staying in the same spot? What will that cost you? Right? And it's framing the cost investment differently. And then another way of handling it might be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you right now? Again, in our process, we make sure that's answered long before we get here. But another question is like, is this a priority? Or more like a later thing? And then again, what's the cost of delaying or waiting or not doing anything at all? Okay, so here's a little cheat sheet. Obviously, in our trainings, we go much deeper and help people to enroll more clients and build really great businesses that can scale and do 30K a month. And we do that by helping our clients build these processes. We clarify their offers, we create systems, and we help them convert their clients. And if you'd like to explore that as a possibility for your business and see if this could be a solution, the solution that you've been waiting for perhaps to generate consistent clients and leads and doing it in a simple way, then there is a link below this video to my calendar. Would love to have a chat with you. I'll leave it there for now and talk to you soon.